Hello.
Hello
Hi.
there.
How are you?
I'm doing really well. I'm excited about another program.
Yeah, me too. Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of Mind to Mind. This is season 2, episode 2, and our topic of the day is grieving. And the reason as to why we have decided to have this topic is because once in a while, every single human being goes through the season of loss, and we do not want to um, we want to acknowledge like every single person going through a loss right now, and um looking at the world right now, um there has been some weather issues and climate change, and especially right now in Kenya, there are floods, and some people have lost their lives, and we have also people who have lost property, and there's different types of losses, and we would like to discuss about grieving and how do we grieve these losses, how do we go through grief without letting it destroy us, at the same time, how do we help people who are going through grief. And yeah, with me is my co-host Dr. Daniel Claiborn. How have you been?
Yes, I've been doing well. For those of you who may not have tuned in before, Evelyn is our host and has mental health certification in her background and is very passionate about mental health. And in her own life, she's a model and an actress and a musician and an artist, and but with a passion about mental health. And I'm a psychologist in Kansas, in the middle of the United States, and I've practiced for over 50 years, and I've worked a lot with police departments, um, and doing evaluations for the courts, but mostly over that period of time, I've done therapy with individuals and family and children, families. And so grieving is a very common thing that I've been dealing with all these years because like Evelyn said, it affects everyone at some time. And we were talking earlier before the program about all the different things that can trigger grieving. You know, we can lose like a friend or a family member or our home or a job, or sometimes we grieve over losing an ability. Let's say we have an illness and we lose the ability to walk or something like that. That's a loss. Um, we can grieve over pets. I lost a dog recently that I'd had for 12 years. His name was Frosty. And I felt very sad for a long time about losing him. Um, and sometimes we even can lose a purpose in
Yeah.
life, like something we had been devoted to, very much energized by, and for some reason that is taken away from us, or it is no longer there, and so we've lost have that sense of a purpose being lost. So,
Yeah.
and I'm sure I've missed some things, but there are many things that can trigger grieving, and so we thought
Mhm.
it'd be a good program. Evelyn, um, I think Evelyn, you mentioned you'd had a couple of losses recently that
Yeah.
put you into some grieving.
Yeah, it's been a tough couple of months for me and my family. 'Cause we lost a dear friend of ours, and she has been such a great support system for our family. She
Hmm.
was one of those people. Um, I kind of stole my mom's friend. She was actually my mom's friend, and I will go to her house. I remember, like, I used to go with my mom to visit her, and our conversation will take up it will take over their conversation, to a point where my mom told me that I should be making my own appointments. And
Uh-huh.
yes, she did. So she would make like this Kenyan snacks called mandazis, and she was really good at that, and chapatis and samosas. And every time, like maybe she had a chama. Chama is a group of women who would come together because of and do table banking. So every time, like maybe there was a charmer in her house, like she and now everyone has left, and she has leftover mandazis and chapatis and samosas. She will call me. She's like, hey, I have mandazis. And then she calls me, and we will talk for hours, to a point where I forgot that I was supposed to go and cook. And I used to love her mindset. And I remember talking to her about now, like the way I love singing, I love modeling, and I used to be so worried about what will people think of me if I do music, if I do this. And she will tell me, live your life. Like for someone who is my mom's friend and that age group, like most people like would tell me like, oh, you have a degree, go and work, like don't involve yourself in certain things. They're going to be, like you're going to embarrass your family. But for her, she was so different. She was so open-minded. And she will tell me, don't care what people think, like you go and, explore the world, live your life, don't care, just do you.
Mhm.
And I used to love talking to her. Like she was that person who, if I can tell my mom, I can tell my dad, I go to her.
Well, it
And
sounds like, she
sorry.
was many things. She was a
Yeah,
friend. She was a role model.
she
She
was
was,
like a mom.
uh-huh. She supported you and encouraged you.
Yeah.
Um, and she was like a therapist. I mean, so
Yeah.
she was many, many things.
Yeah.
So it's not
So
like just losing a person, it's
yeah.
losing many things.
Yeah. And I remember when my mom called me and told me, like out of the blue, she's like, oh, hi, you remember this and this? You remember this lady? Yes. I just received a call, and I was told that she had been sick for a while, and unfortunately, like she didn't make it. I'm
Mm.
telling you, I was in so much denial. I have never felt so much pain. I was like, no, you're lying. This can't be happening. Like,
Right.
absolutely not. I remember I was even angry at God. I'm like, like these are the good people on earth, the most genuine people. She was the most genuine person I've ever met.
Uh-huh. Actually,
Like,
this makes me think, of all the different types of feelings we have when we're grieving. I mean, I was making a list the other day, and there's definitely sadness, but like you mentioned, anger. Um,
yeah,
there's empty
denial.
sometimes. Yes, sometimes there could be emptiness. Um, One thing I thought of was also a sense of incompleteness. If we lose
Yeah,
somebody that's really essential, then for a
yeah,
period of time we don't feel complete without
yeah,
that job or that person.
yeah.
Sometimes there can be a feeling of fear or
Hmm.
confusion,
Yeah.
uh, or
There's also
also
bargaining.
what would you say, Evelyn?
There's also bargaining, because I remember my mom got distracted because she was at work, and she told me, I'll call you back. And I remember bargaining with God, like let it be someone else, like let it not be her. Like I
Right.
think I did care, right? And I was bargaining with God, and I was like, let that not be the case. Like there's absolutely no way it could be her. Oh my God.
And also, as I was thinking of all these different feelings we have, there are some positive ones too. Sometimes we'll have a feeling of fondness and
Yeah.
remember why we appreciated that person.
Mhm.
And sometimes the more we think about it and go through the grieving process, we find inspiration from
Yeah.
that person, even though, or that job, or that whatever it is we've lost, it may not be there, or that person may not be there any longer, but they've left an impression on us
Mhm.
that will continue to be guiding us or inspiring us. And it sounds like this friend that you've lost definitely was inspiring.
Yeah. She made me question myself and ask myself, like, if I died, would someone say the same thing about me?
Uh-huh. Hmm.
Like, will someone one day cry and feel a sense of loss because I was so amazing?
Uh-huh.
You know, like she made me question and, like inspire me to be a better person in life and, just even live my life, like she was saying.
And you can examine what was it about her that was so inspiring. You've mentioned several things already. She was encouraging, she was
Mhm.
understanding, she
Yeah,
gave you permission to be yourself.
yeah,
So she was liberating.
yeah,
Um, and those are things then you may want to think about how you could be those things so that at some point when you're gone, people will
yeah,
really miss you.
yeah,
So they'll really feel it.
yeah,
Yeah. And you may
yeah,
analyze the things about her that you miss, and you may think about, incorporating those more into your own actions.
yeah.
Um,
I think a part of me is still in denial. Like, even the thought of like I will never see her again.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we do that to kind of adjust a little bit at a time. So at
Mm,
first, we may not take in the whole loss. We may absorb bits of it, pieces of it gradually. I
yeah.
don't know that that's really denial, but it's more like giving yourself time to absorb it and
Hmm.
feel it.
Yeah.
Um, that's important, I think, rather than to
Yeah.
try to take the whole experience in all at once. It's hard
Hmm.
to do, especially if the person's been very important, or if it's a job or it's your
Not
health.
just me. It's not just to me. Like she was so good in the community. She really served. I remember like she even served like in one of our churches, and she helped so many people. Yeah. it's
Hmm.
it's it's a big loss, but at the same time, you just have to accept it, and we just pray that she's in a better place.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So there's, after we have a loss like that, there's, we have to understand it. We
Hmm.
want to express our feelings to someone about it. We
Yeah.
want to maybe commemorate that person in some way, or if it's some other loss, we
Yeah.
may want to honor that person's memory in
Yeah.
some way. Um, I had a client once that his wife and daughter were both hairdressers, and they
Hmm.
went on a trip to another city to go to a convention on
Hmm.
hairdressing. And while
Yeah.
they were there, they were both murdered.
Oh my God.
And he lost both of them at the same time. And so for many weeks, he wanted to commemorate them and do something in their memory, but he
Hmm.
didn't know what to do. And one day he was driving to work and he drove by an elementary school, and he noticed on their playground they didn't have any equipment,
Hmm.
any play equipment.
Hmm.
And he happened to be a carpenter. And
Yeah.
so he made it his plan to build a very elaborate, nice playground set
Hmm.
for this school. And so he did. And so after that, every time he would drive to work, he would see children playing on his playground equipment that he had built in memory of his wife and daughter.
Hmm.
And I thought that was wonderful and perfect.
Yeah. That is beautiful.
Yeah, sometimes people, they might plant a tree in memory of a person, or they might, many different things. Sometimes it takes a long time to think about what to do. And
Yeah.
like in your case, you lost this special person. And, maybe you would write a song about her, or you might incorporate parts of her personality. So when you help other people, you are passing along some of her personality to them.
Yeah.
Um, but I wouldn't call it denial. I think you're gradually processing
Yeah.
what it means to have lost this person, and both the negative things, but also the inspirational things. That takes some
Mhm.
time, and
Yeah.
you have other things in your life going on too. So yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with taking it slowly.
Yeah. It's not something that just like goes away. But I remember like most of
Oh, looks like we've
um
lost. Oh, there is Evelyn. Yes,
yeah, I don't know what happened. um
you were saying most of your.
like I really cried the first night, and then I started thinking about all the good that she has done, and like thinking about all the positives, and how much like I would like to emulate her and her personality, and how good she was, to other people, not just me. Yeah,
Mhm.
so I hope I
Eventually,
show
Oh,
like
go
she did.
ahead.
Like I'm saying, I hope I show up for someone the same way she did for me.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure you will. Well,
Yeah.
even doing this program, you're really doing it already. Um,
Yeah.
so not you definitely think you will, but you'll do it in your own way. Um,
Mm.
Sometimes when we've lost, whether it's a job or a person or an ability, or after the shock and the adjustment, eventually we may find that it motivates us in some
Mm-hmm.
way to make changes
Yeah.
with our life or to dedicate ourselves to something. I know as I've gotten older and I've lost some of my physical abilities,
Mm-hmm.
it has made me actually focus more on the world around me and nature. In my case, I think of trees a lot more than I ever did before, and I notice them and admire them. And
Mm-hmm.
I pay more attention to clouds and the sound of birds,
Yeah.
um, things that I didn't really pay much attention to for many
Yeah.
years. So sometimes it can motivate us or focus us on kind of how we want to spend the rest of our life that we have left.
Yeah. And also, sometimes I find that when you experience loss, sometimes you discover a new strength within you that you didn't know existed.
Uh huh.
Yeah. So maybe you will discover that maybe you're stronger. You get like new coping mechanisms about like like you get new coping mechanisms for whenever you experience loss. And like maybe like you were saying, like you discover a new ability that you have,
Uh huh.
like maybe in trying to get your mind off the loss, you might start new hobbies and discover maybe a talent you didn't know you had,
Hmm.
things like that.
Some people think that losses are essential for this reason that excuse me, that if we didn't have losses or some other kind of obstacles, we would never test ourselves and
Yeah.
discover the strengths and the
Yeah.
resources that we have, and practice them, and that in a sense not only are losses inevitable in life, but they're also important and
Yeah. Yeah.
essential, just as you were saying.
Yeah. That is so true.
Hmm.
I was just thinking about other forms of losses, like for example, when like maybe you lose a spouse, or in terms of life separation or divorce, like
Uh-huh.
what it means to you and your children, you know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it changes your life. So it may
Yeah.
not be that you've literally lost a person to death, but having,
Mhm.
let's say, like divorce is a good example. Um, it changes everything, the way you relate to your children and the, the the way you have to go on with yourself without that other person, let's say.
Yeah.
Um, and illnesses too. Sometimes we're talking more about losing a person, but
Yeah.
sometimes we have an illness or an accident that
Yeah.
causes some kind of physical damage that
Mhm.
results in a loss of some sort. Um,
Yeah.
and early on, we talked about also maybe we have something going on in life that gives us a sense of purpose, and we, for some reason, lose access to that. Something changes, and we no longer have that outlet, that
Yeah.
sense of that place to find a sense of purpose. And that's extremely important to human beings, to have a sense of meaning and purpose. And so sometimes after a loss like that, that takes quite a while sometimes to rediscover a new purpose or a sense of importance and value, a sense of our value.
Yeah. So, like, there's something I watched today in the morning. It was so disturbing. So, there's this guy, he's a celebrity in Kenya, and he went on Twitter yesterday, like last night, and he was so angry. Um, like he was so angry, and the reason why he was angry is because he claims that there's there's a person he slept with who was infected with HIV and AIDS, and the person slept with him and did not let him know. So it's like he had recently found out that he was also HIV positive. And
He
he
found, what did you say he found out?
he found it's like he recently found out that he was HIV positive. So he went on a rant online, and he was like, I will damage you. I like, how dare you, like he
Uh-huh.
was in so much range. I've never seen range like that, and you could tell like he was crying, and he was trust me, it wasn't a pretty sight at all.
Yes.
And I was trying to like really figure out what was really going on in his mind, because I think he was in the anger stage of grief, because now he has found out, like, now he has a medical condition that is for life now.
Mhm.
And and one of the things that I was asking myself is, is he only angry at this person, or is he also angry at himself?
I think
Because
that's very wise, or even angry at life,
at
or
life,
it's unfair, or a lot of things happen that we feel are just
situation.
not warranted and unfair. And so an
Yeah,
initial reaction can definitely be anger. Yeah.
yeah. But the kind of range that he showed, it actually like pointed out to show that this person was like really really needed psychological help. Like it's not one of those like, I'm processing this, that is happening, and yes, I'm angry at the person and all that. Like, he wasn't taking it well at all. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I was thinking about now, like the kind of loss that goes through someone who discovers that someone, like maybe a partner, like betrayed you to a point where they have infected you with a disease that is not curable.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I think that, what you're describing in his behavior is a form of denial.
Yeah.
He's acting as though his anger can keep it from happening. And it's a
Yeah.
little more of an immature type of reaction. But after a while, it probably will subside because it's not helping. And
Yeah.
it won't bring anything back to the way it was before. Uh,
Yeah.
so probably it is a person who could use some counseling or some therapy to help
Yeah.
process. Normally, we use our friends and
Mm-hmm.
family and to help us process grieving, but sometimes a professional person is helpful because they're not a member of our family and they
Yeah.
may have some techniques that might help us. For example, one technique is to write down everything you used to appreciate about that person or that job or
Mm-hmm.
when you had your health,
Yeah.
and then either burn it, you can set it on fire, or you do
Mm-hmm.
something kind of symbolic that where you
Yeah.
are letting go of those memories. You don't lose the memories, but it's like a symbol that you're going to be moving on. And I mentioned
Yeah.
before, sometimes having a memorial for that person helps us
Mm-hmm.
move on. Uh,
Yeah.
so most people don't need to go to a therapist in normal grieving, but if it lasts a long time or they have trouble moving through it, sometimes
Yeah.
professional help is important. We normally think of, particularly with the loss of a loved one, that it takes a calendar year to process about 80% of it because
Mm-hmm.
it's not that it's 12 months, but it's, the first birthday, the first summer, the first Christmas, the first, it takes a year to go through all those first things that you
Mm-hmm.
used to experience with that person. And then we
Yeah.
think that the second year, we can finish about the other 20% of the grieving process. So if you find somebody who's had a major loss and it's been
Mm-hmm.
over 2 years and they're still really grieving, we call
Mm-hmm.
that extended grieving. And that usually requires therapy because it
Yeah.
usually is more complicated in some
Yeah.
way with that person than just ordinary grieving.
Yeah. So one of the things that I actually learned from that situation was that like when you look at the comment section of now like the video, you find like now first of all these media blogs are now sharing the video everywhere. So first of all, there are people reacting differently. There are others who are very negative and trolling him. Others are like, oh, this person needs help. Others are like, why are you grieving? Like there's medication, people living with it, like the non-empathetic kind of thing.
Mhm.
And the problem with that is that like you're adding now, it's like you've introduced people into your problem and you didn't give yourself a chance to experience and process the emotion yourself. Or even if you really need someone, like go to someone close. But there's this illusion, I think, with this, with now people in my generation and younger, where we think that people online actually care about us, which is actually not true. Like there are people who are waiting for your downfall like this, and they will let you know that you should have known, you should have thought about it, like we've been taught about, like people are coming with all sorts of things, and like that makes it worse, and it makes even your process even worse because now it's like it means first of all you need validation from the world. That's the reason why you're telling people, and you want people to know it's not your fault, it's that other person's fault. But there are people who will call you out and tell you all sorts of things. Others will be mean. And the problem with now someone who needs that validation and now they're getting the negative side of it, they will not process that really well. And now the problem is that they might even end up doing something harmful to or the other person. Because in that video, he was really threatening the other person, like threatening to do something bad to them, and it doesn't help the situation at all. Yeah,
I have allergies. Sorry.
it's okay. It's
Actually,
okay.
those are very wise observations. And it makes me think, Evelyn, that sometime you may want to become a psychologist. Mm.
Yeah, I
Those
should.
are very, very wise observations.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, those dramatic reactions that are overboard or attacking others. And I do think those are forms of denial and they're
Yeah.
not productive. But sometimes after a person does that and it doesn't help, they sometimes settle into more productive ways of coping.
Yeah.
So I hope he does.
Yeah, and I'm really hoping that he has people around him who cares. Like even if it's just one or two people
Uh-huh.
who will
Yeah.
literally like reach out, try and help him. And if he's not in a state of mind that is good, like take him somewhere where he can be helped. Because literally that person is a danger to themselves and others.
Right. I think it's an expression of hurt. He's been hurt. And so one of the reactions to hurt sometimes is to lash out and hurt others, but it's
Yeah.
never helpful.
Yeah, it doesn't help at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Apologize for my coughing,
No, it's
but
okay.
we've had a lot of rain here and it has created lots of pollen in the
Um,
atmosphere. And so
mhm.
many people have allergies and sneezing and coughing. And um, so that's what's happening.
Yeah. So sorry about that.
No, it just comes along with life.
Yeah. In our show, we like to be as authentic as possible and just be ourselves. And
Uh-huh.
there's no judgment here. You're just a human being.
Yes. Yeah, we really do try to because even though we may have special interests or expertise dealing with
Yeah.
mental health, we're actually just real people.
Yeah, we are.
Almost everything we talk about in our shows, I in particular, since I'm much older, have experienced. I mean, definitely
Yeah.
losses.
Yeah.
Um, when I was first married, my wife uh, eventually got a terminal illness and died.
Oh.
Um, so I've had that experience of loss, and
Mhm.
um, I've lost in old age. I've lost a couple of abilities that
Yeah.
I've had. We begin to lose our hearing and our vision and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
Um, and sometimes even when I've moved from one place to another, even though it's a positive thing, I'm
Yeah.
moving to another place to take a new job, and it's
Mhm.
positive. But I miss the old place, and I
Yeah.
do feel like I've lost something in the people I met there and the the environment, and
Mhm.
so those are losses too.
Yeah. Sometimes I actually feel like I don't react so well with change. I feel like a great sense of loss if like maybe I used to do things in a particular way and then now I really have to change the situation because maybe someone is leaving or I have to leave, and
Mhm.
yeah, like I feel a sense of loss during such times and it takes me a while to adapt to the change,
Mhm.
which is really true.
I think it makes a difference in terms of whether the change is something we have chosen or
Yeah.
it's something that's been forced upon us. But either way, I mean, change is challenging. One of the recent articles I wrote, I maybe I should mention that I every other week write a mental health article for a newspaper, and a lot of our shows are based on some of those articles. And if
Yeah.
anybody ever is interested in an article that's gone along with one of our shows, you can request it. But I wrote
Yeah.
one on change and all the
Yeah.
difficulties and challenges and adventures and
Yeah.
frustrations that come with changing.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's particularly true of young people to be a little bit awkward with changing. Partly it's a question of practice. As long, every decade you live, you'll have more changes, and so you'll get better at it.
Yeah. It's so true. Like also, you said like the way I am very artistic and I'm a dancer. Like I actually noticed that I now can't dance certain styles, and there is all this frequent change on how people are dancing now. And I'm trying to keep up with the youngsters, and I'm like, oh my God, my legs can't move like that anymore. I
Mhm.
am actually growing older, and I feel nice.
Mhm. Well, um, that just changes. There are certain things in life that are inevitable, and one is change. Another
Yeah,
one is uncertainty. We're
yeah,
going to, all of us have moments of uncertainty about where to go and what to do and how to handle something. And a
yeah,
third one is that is inevitable is pain. All of us are
mm,
going to have some painful experiences in
yeah,
life. And another one that's inevitable and for all of us is hard work.
yeah,
Life involves moments and times of adjustment and hard work to
mm,
get back in control of ourselves and to
mhm,
set a new direction.
yeah,
Um, Part of it is practice. When we're only in our 20s, we don't have much practice with that usually.
yeah. That is
And
true.
through our schooling, so much of our life is actually structured and controlled and by school. And so we
Mhm,
don't have to make many decisions on our own because
yeah,
we know every year for 12 years or so exactly what we're going to be doing every year and what we're going to be doing next year.
yeah.
So sometimes the adjustment really begins after we leave school.
Oh yeah, that is so true. I actually noticed I thrive more in structured environments where I know what I'm doing at what time.
Right.
And like I wake up at this time, I am here at this time, I leave at this time, I sleep at this time. So now as an adult, and you're no longer in the school system, or maybe I'm not even working for corporate, now I'm working for myself.
Mhm.
I make my own hours. Oh my God, it's not. I don't enjoy it at all.
Well, another thing that school provides is friends. So
Yeah,
every year in school, we have ready-made opportunities
friends.
for friendships. And once
Yeah.
we're out on our own in the world, um, sometimes we have that because of where we're working.
Mm-hmm.
And when we have children, then they go to school, and we meet the parents of the other kids. So that's
Yeah.
an opportunity to have friends. But in
Yeah.
adult life, we really have to make our own opportunities to find friends. It's not that
Yeah.
easy.
We do. No, go ahead.
Do you have friends, Evelyn, that you've had ever since you were very young?
Yeah, but I think I kind of have one. There's one friend that I had in primary school, but we haven't kept in touch like for since COVID. We haven't kept in touch like that much. But it's not like we're not in talking terms. Like if I call her right now, like we'll talk, and then there are all these changes that have happened like within those 4 years. Like she got married, kids, and now she's a mom, and now she has to,
Hmm.
like, there are all these changes. Then and then another thing that really reconnected us was there's a period of time where we used to live in the same place, so we kind of now had now that, but now we live so far apart that and now COVID really separated, like you couldn't meet with people. Yeah, so life continued, and yeah, I am in a certain financial group with people I was with in high school, so we meet once in a while. That is kind of great. Yeah.
You made me, as you were talking, you made me think of um, three, I think of them as pillars, kind of pillars of mental health. And they're things that we can do on our own without anybody else helping. And they're especially important when we're going through a period of adjustment or change or loss or grieving. And the three things are: one, is connecting with other people. We sometimes when we're going through a hard time, we tend to pull back in ourselves and we forget the value of connecting with other people.
Yeah.
A second one is taking time to reflect on how lucky we are and how grateful we are for certain things that we still have or have had. And then the
Yeah.
third one is doing good, just doing small something, acts of goodness or helpfulness. Um, if any day we do a little of each one of those three things, it will really help us feel better and
Yeah.
provide a sense of stability and hope that
Mhm.
things are going to, I'm going to get through this crisis. Um,
Yeah.
so I think of the value of those things, the doing an act of goodness or helpfulness, reflecting on how fortunate we have been, and
Yeah.
then connecting with other people. So in your case, even though it's harder now, I would really encourage you to connect with her and
Yeah, I think I'm
reach
gonna
out.
give her a call.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think that would be really good.
Yeah.
A lot of times when we do that, we find the other person was really missing us too. And so
Yeah.
we're very happy and grateful that we made
Yeah.
that effort.
Mm-hmm. I think there was a period last year I actually called people I haven't spoken to like since COVID.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and it was such a like the first question was like, wow, is everything okay? Like why? Because I haven't heard from you in like 4 years and now you're calling me.
That's right.
You like
Why
and
are you
it's
calling me now? Yeah.
yeah, and it was more of like, yeah, I know COVID striked and people like moved away, and yeah, but it doesn't mean like our friendship stopped. And it was such a beautiful conversation and catching up.
Uh-huh.
So what are you doing now? Your kids are a bit, older, and
Hmm.
it had to be such a beautiful experience, like just having that conversation.
Uh-huh. Oh,
Yeah.
that reminds me of another thing that's always healthy to do, and that is to express appreciation to certain people. To tell them how much they've meant to you, or what particular parts of them you've especially enjoyed. Just
Yeah.
yesterday, I was talking to a friend online on a Zoom call, and I
Hmm.
was telling him I really have always loved his sense of humor, and
Yeah.
because I have a similar sense of humor, and all these years that we've known each other for 40 some years, that's one thing we've always had in common, and I've always appreciated it. And it
Yeah.
felt good for me to tell him that.
Yeah. I think I know I've mentioned this so many times, like in my past shows, but there's this song that I wrote during COVID, and it's called Now That You're Here. And the song was inspired with how we never say how we feel like until it's too late.
Mhm.
Like my friend knew how I felt about her like when she was alive. So even if I was saying all these things now and I didn't tell her before, I would feel so bad.
Sure.
And like, because the chorus goes like, now that you're here, I want you to know how I feel. Now that you're here, I want you to know that you're needed. Now that you're here, I want you to know that you're loved. Now that you're here, I want you to know that you're worthy. And like the whole basis of that song is to encourage people to be kind, to be loving, like express yourself, tell people how you feel. And I usually say, like, sometimes people even cut off communication with people they love just because maybe one time there was a misunderstanding, you did not assert yourself, you did not express
Hmm.
yourself, and maybe it was just a misunderstanding, and then you end up losing like a beautiful friendship out of it. Just say how you feel, and maybe they will just hear you out, and you don't have to lose that friendship, you don't have to lose that person,
Yeah,
because maybe
friendships
the
are very
relationship.
important, but
Yeah.
sometimes they go on the wrong direction, and there's a temporary breakup or distance. And
Yeah.
in my experience, it's always worth trying to put them back together. We never
Yeah.
can have too many friends.
Yeah.
And we're not telling people what we appreciate about them, really mostly for their benefit. We're doing that because it makes us feel healthier and better and happier to do it. So it has a very big benefit on the person who's sharing it.
Yeah.
But it's always worth trying to recapture a friendship if possible. And sometimes it's not possible. People change and they go in different directions and they
Mhm.
evolve and become different people. And so
Yeah.
sometimes it's not possible to be friends again because the two
Yeah.
people are different now,
Yeah.
but a lot of times it is. As a matter of fact, the person I was mentioning that I told him how I appreciated his sense of humor, he and I actually lost touch with each other for probably 10 years. And
Wow.
then I reached out and contacted him, and he was happy to hear from me. And it was just like we'd never been apart. And
Oh
so,
my.
but it doesn't always work out that way.
Yeah. Yeah, that is so true. Sometimes we think that it's maybe sometimes we need to give the people the space they need. But if you get a chance to reconnect with someone, just give it a shot because you never really know. Because I do believe there is a reason as to why you meet people, and most of the time, one thing I know for a fact is that relationships exposes your weaknesses and strengths, and sometimes maybe even experiencing that loss makes you identify a certain weakness you have that you need to work on, turn it into a strength. And yeah, so there are positive ways of looking at loss sometimes.
Hmm.
Mm.
Right, right. Any life event, whether it's a loss or let's say it's a major success, or let's say
Yeah,
it's, getting married or having a child or any one of those major events, if we think about it the right way, it's an opportunity to reevaluate.
yeah,
Here's where I've gone so far. Here's where I'm going next in life. Here's what
mhm,
is important to me.
yeah,
Here's what I'm going to make important to me in my next stage. I sometimes think of each of our lives as like a movie. So
yeah,
there's the movie of Dan Claiborn, and it began in 1947 and it will
mhm,
end in 2000 something. And today, any given day, all I can do is work on that movie today. I can't
yeah,
change any of the past movie,
yeah,
and I really can't change the future yet, but I can work on today. And
yeah,
so you're right. Any of these events, including grieving, kind of makes us focus on, okay, where have I gone? Where am I going?
hmm,
I think you should think about becoming a psychologist, Evelyn. You have really good instincts and
yeah.
observations, and
Let me
you're
tell you,
still very
if I had the school fees, I would be in school right now.
young.
Like
Mhm.
seriously, I think about it like every day, every
Uh-huh.
single day. Like I will go to school in a heartbeat.
Uh-huh.
If I get the scholarship, I will. If I had the money, I think I've even researched about it. If I had the money, I'd be in school right now. Like I
Well,
think,
and even meantime, even before that's able to happen, you're still
yeah,
really actually investing in that agenda. You created this online program on mental health.
yeah,
You you reach out to people through your art and your music, and so
yeah.
you're doing it.
Yes, I am. I think it's just one of those accepting like where you are at in life and using the resources you have
Hmm.
to do what you can at the moment. And also, like you don't stop dreaming because one day I'm going to be a doctor.
Oh,
I always tell myself that one day I'm going to be a doctor in psychology, and I don't care how old I'll be, but I will be a doctor in
uh-huh.
psychology.
But even though
Yeah.
it's one day and it's not here yet, that doesn't
Yeah,
mean you can't do quite a few things in the
yeah,
same spirit.
yes, yeah,
One thing we might want to mention is we mention it usually each time, but any viewers who are watching our program, we're very
Yeah.
open to suggestions for topics. We have
Yes.
lots of ideas for topics, but
Yeah.
we'd really rather hear some suggestions from our viewers. It
Yeah.
may be to go deeper into a topic we've already had, or it might
Yeah.
be something we hadn't thought of.
Yeah.
So communicate with Evelyn, and likewise, if you want to request more information on any topic,
Yeah.
and also you can contact me directly through my
Yeah.
email. That's perfectly fine. Um,
Yeah. You can send a comment on all our platforms. Like we are live on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. You can leave a message, and I will reach out to you. And yeah, that way I will be able to reach out to you and talk to you directly.
mhm.
Yeah, so never feel afraid to ask any questions. If you want like a private session, I can give you that as well. I can give you Dr. Claiborn's like email
Right.
address where you can reach out to him as well. So
Mhm.
never feel like you don't have anyone to speak to when you're going
Right.
through grief or loss. And we are here to help no matter what.
Yeah. Good. Good. Good.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what our next topic will be. Will be in 2 weeks. Evelyn and I haven't had a chance to talk about that yet.
Yeah.
Last week, our last program was on hypnosis, and we had a guest speaker, a friend of mine from a long time ago, who's did a lot of hypnosis in his career, and he has an idea for a future show. There are certain techniques that are called self-therapy techniques that people can do on their own individually that
Yeah.
help them realize things about themselves, or they're very clever, very interesting techniques. And Fred is wanting to come back at some point and demonstrate 2 or 3 of those.
Yeah.
So that'll be in our future, I think.
Yeah. um, Keep a lookout on that. I will let you know on all the platforms. Yeah. So I also wanted to really thank you guys for the support that you have shown, and also for watching our sessions. If you ever feel like there's something we did not cover, or you have any kind of questions from any of our previous videos, you can ask, and I will be sure to reach out and also like answer you. And yeah, all our videos are live. Like you will always find them online. Like no one is taking them down. So feel free to go through them
I
if you
think
need.
this is our 22nd
Yeah,
program, isn't it? Yes.
yeah, it is. So yeah, thank you so much. This has been amazing. Thank you so much,
Uh-huh.
Dr. Clay, for this.
Yes, I really appreciated the opportunity also. And we're looking forward to having a new program in 2 weeks from today.
Yeah. So bye bye, guys.
All right. Bye.